Sailors, what's the creepiest, scariest, or most unnerving thing you've seen/witnessed while at sea? Giant spears plunging in and out of the sea. Lol. In the Gulf of Alaska, I have seen some shit. But one of the most terror-inspiring things I've seen are what can happen with some of the loose logs from the logging trade. Sometimes when a big log gets loose from a raft, it becomes partially waterlogged and floats small end up. So you have this 4-foot diameter telephone pole in the sea, sticking up 40 feet into the air. No biggie. Shows up on radar, and easy to spot. Now, give that pole 20 years of floating around or so. It rots in such a way that it becomes filed to a point by wind and waves, and looks quite menacing. Now, put it in a gale with 25-foot waves, 50 feet trough to peak. And it becomes a towering spike of death that shoots up from the sea every 15 to 20 minutes, out of nowhere, 60 feet into the air, only to plunge down into the dark depths waiting to skewer some unsuspecting boat in a few minutes when it thrusts out of the ocean again. It is a genuine terrifying sight, rare, but not so rare that I haven't seen two in one season. It's like the spiked dick of Neptune looking for an opportunity to fuck your shit up in a particularly terrifying way. My dad and I were sailing in the Sea of Cortez. It was early morning with some patchy surface fog. I was 14 or 15 at the time. We heard what sounded like applause in the distance, but becoming louder. We could soon see a patch of disturbed water getting closer and closer and hundreds of objects flying out of the water and splashing back down. A few of them flew out, hit the deck of the boat and bounced back into the water. Stingrays. A whole school of them, jumping out of the water for some reason. It was weird and awesome. I worked on tugboats for about 6 years. The back deck is considered a wet deck, meaning it isn't unusual for it to be underwater at times. We were making tow with an oil rig at sea with waves that were 14 to 16 and one hit us just right, taking my coworker George and pulling him out to sea. Now it's 3 a.m. and pitch black. This is nearly always a death sentence. About 20 seconds later, which felt like an eternity, another wave brought George back on deck, plopping him safely on his ass right next to the winch. George laughed and got right back to work without missing a beat. Edit: I'm mostly a lurker on here, didn't think this would take off the way it did. Thanks for the silvers. Let me know if you wanted to hear some more sea stories. I've got some about drunk people getting on our boat, a small boat filled with half-assed pirates trying to get on our barge, and a bonus story of one of the times I almost drowned in the rudder room. Not a sailor, however, this was at sea. My dad went boating with some friends down near Rocky Point in Mexico in the mid-90s. They went out late at night to drink. It was incredibly dark apart from the boat lights when suddenly a helicopter flew above their boat and the local who took them out shut everything off immediately. The helicopter hovered over some water in the distance and dumped a few bodies into the water before flying off. When it was out of sight, the local turned everything back on and shrugged it off, saying, "They do that all the time, never seen it so close up before." A couple of years ago I was sailing as a cadet on a merchant vessel and I was scheduled on the evening watch. The rest of the crew was enjoying dinner and I was to call if anything went wrong. We were sailing over open ocean, no land within a day sailing around us, and all of a sudden I notice an island coming up on my bow. It was still far away but it shouldn't be there. I looked at the maps, checked my position multiple times, and then I noticed the island did not appear on my radars. I called down to the mess room to tell there was a weird island in front of us. The chief mate came up and checked again the maps and positions. He also noticed that the radars did not see the island. We called the captain, and when he came up he started laughing. He was an old sailor with over 40 years of experience under his belt. He explained us it was a Fata Morgana. The real island was more than a day sailing away in the direction we were heading at that moment. After that incident he took over the watch and I went down. It wasn't really creepy but it was strange. Worked the shrimp boats in the Gulf back in the 70s. 100 miles off the coast of Louisiana and the sea got dead calm. I mean dead calm, not a ripple or a swell. The sea was so calm that vibrations from the engine idling would make little ripples in the water. The surface of the sea looked like a huge never-ending mirror extending out in all directions. The visual memory I have of seeing that perfectly flat sea in the moonlight is deeply etched in my memory, and I can see it today in my mind just as real as if it was happening now. I could talk about 25-foot seas in the middle of a hurricane, or a half-dozen waterspouts dancing around us during a summer squall, or sargassum seaweed as far as the eye could see so thick around the boat that you can walk on it, or flying fish all taking flight at the same time like a flock of birds skimming across the water. But none of that stuff had the impact on me like the dead calm of the sea 100 miles offshore. When I was about 19, maybe 20, My mom's boyfriend at the time decided to take us out on his boat one afternoon so that we could lounge around and swim in the ocean far from the shore. We were super excited because the water was turquoise, completely see-through and the perfect temperature that day. So we found what seemed to be the perfect location, dropped the anchor and had a snack. Before long, we were completely surrounded by hundreds of giant milky white jellyfish. There were so many that we couldn't see clear water anywhere around us. Their bells were easily 5 feet in diameter, if not more. We did not swim that day. I'm not a sailor, but my family owns a boat and I frequently go out on fishing trips in the sea with my dad. It's usually more us talking about life with him doing most of the fishing. Well, on one trip, we were out about I think 10 miles from the beach. My dad was telling me about how he got into and won a bar fight, and I was just silently listening when a weird whistling/howling sound sort of surrounded us. I can't really describe it. It was like a cross between a whale and the sound of someone blowing air over an open bottle. My dad looked pretty calm, but I could tell he was freaked out too. It went on for about another minute, slowly becoming stronger, until it just abruptly ended with a screech from somewhere in the water. We never talk about it and I still wonder what was making that sound. 2 years ago I was about 150 miles offshore from Long Island, NY, in a 31-foot boat. We were trolling for yellowfin tuna. In the distance we saw 2 hugfins coming out of the water, so we headed towards them thinking it was a couple of sharks. As we got closer, we realized it was one big shark. There it was, just cruising slowly at the surface, not even the slightest bit disturbed by us approaching. Once we got up next to it we realized that this shark was almost as big as the boat. It had to be at least 25 feet long and several thousand pounds. I was in absolute shock as we passed it. I'd never seen a shark even close to that big. I've seen plenty of whales, turtles, dolphins, sharks, all kinds of crazy things out at sea. But never a predator this large. It was definitely not a whale shark. This thing was a killer. I want to say that it was a tiger shark, but the internet says they don't even get close to that big, so I really just don't know. I wish I could have gotten a picture of it, but I was just frozen. I couldn't even move. I will never forget that moment. The ocean is an incredible place. One of my coworkers fled to the US from Vietnam in a small boat as a young child. She was one of the boat people. We were complaining about little shit when she explained why she almost never got upset. She was only 7 when this happened. She and her sister, father, mother and grandfather were in a small fishing boat in the middle of the ocean. They had been out of food for several days. She and her sister, 5, managed to catch an albatross on the boat. Her father said it was bad luck to kill one and released it. She said as she watched it fly away, she knew then that she and her family were going to starve to death. She hated her father at that point too. The next day they were picked up by a trawler and taken to California. She still wears an albatross necklace for good luck. Not quite as mesmerizing as prior stories, but it was the first time I'd ever seen this. At Atikokan, Ontario. I don't remember the name of the lake. It was flooded on purpose, not sure why, maybe to create a lake? Maybe to dam power? Doesn't matter, I was fishing with a guide. The air was still. The water crystal clear. I looked down and we were literally floating over an entire forest, at the top of the pine trees. All you could see was thousands of 75-foot pine tree trunks standing side by side as they were when they were alive before the water flooded that valley. You could not see the bottom. I was on the Enterprise, CVN 65, and we sailed around South Africa toward Australia deep in the Southern Ocean. It was June and we went through a large winter storm that was rolling us all over and making the ship creak. We had all the water tights closed, including the hangar bay. The curtain doors for the elevators have smaller people-sized doors in them. Snuck up to see the storm firsthand. Go through the inner door, close it, and open the outer door in time to see a crazy big wave peaking as it is about to crash over the flight deck. Closed and dogged the door just as it hit. I could feel the impact in my bones. Mine was just weird. It's midnight and I'm aft lookout, back of the ship lookout, and I'm actually in the helo control tower because well I was just tired of standing in the back. Shitbag noises. I was joined with my friend who was deep into Candy Crush. Conversation dies down, I look out back and I just see this brilliant blue light up the sky. It looked surreal, like it fell from the heavens. It just lit up everything and fell what looked like from to sky to over the horizon. Imagine looking into a baby blue light bulb, that's what it was like. There seemed to be an aura following it, but maybe that was just light. I called it into the bridge as an aerial contact and of course they showed nothing on their end. Friend was too ass deep in Candy Crush to notice. Well, I was on a family friend's boat when I was teen. Family and friends. 4-day boat trip around Cabo San Lucas area. I don't remember our exact location or anything like that, just that we left Cabo San Lucas. It was late and the adults went to bed. I had my Game Boy and Pokemon to keep my attention. Went out on the deck and sat in a chair around midnight or 11 p.m. to try and catch the red Gyarados. Sometime in fighting the Gyarados, I saw a light out the corner of my eye. Keep in mind we're out 30 plus miles away from shore if not more. So I turned to see a bright blue light in the sky. It was an orb? Or like a LED? Anyways, it was holding steady in the sky. Not moving at all. Probably a good head turn up and far away but didn't seem anywhere near us. After a few minutes of this blue light just sitting there, it moved. Not directly towards us or anything so crazy, but it moved in a straight path across the horizon for a good minute. Still far away so it appeared. Then it dropped down and then I couldn't see it. Like it dropped into the water or landed on something. To this day I have no fucking clue what I saw. But I know I saw what I saw. Father said it probably a flare or something. But I know they don't move like what I saw. Ha. Probably an early drone, I tell myself to this day. This was 2002 by the way.